Good morning, and thank you for joining us on After GMS. It is 7:45 Thursday, August 5th. I'm Tracy McCain here with Megan Malaris, and it looks like both of the guys are together.
We got them.
We talked about
this was a practical joke.
We talked about it all morning.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then
so funny.
I said, hey, punch us up both in the garden. Megan and Tracy will not expect it.
Yeah,
Okay.
he said earlier he was going to come out here and enjoy the weather. Now we're waiting on them to come out and join us.
I mean,
We got all this room out here.
Somebody's got to stay in the
Yeah,
studio, right?
Well, what's the current temperature?
Nice.
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
it's that nice temperature. We're
great.
I'll be right out.
feeling good, feeling
yeah,
good.
Bobby already said he's working outside, so is amazed that it is so nice.
That's so cool. I love seeing you guys both out there.
Yeah. Glad to have somebody out here. Sometimes I get a little lonely in the garden, so it's great to have Christian out here for this first segment.
Yeah, well, don't squat away the bees just yet.
I went to look for Christian to ask him a question in the other studio, and I'm like, where'd he go? This explains a lot. Okay.
Just outside, hanging out.
All right, so are you guys sharing responsibilities for our first dose of weather?
I'm
or-
going to let him take it away.
All
I'll
right.
do the first one. He can have the second one. Yeah, what a nice morning it is to be outside. Wow, 61 degrees right now in Greensboro. That's the temperature, Tracy. I just saw that now that my graphic came up. 63 in Winston, 60 and 61 in Burlington as well. Of course, if you look across the Triad right now, just absolutely gorgeous and comfortable temperatures, especially when you think about it being August. Tell you what, upper 50s to right around 60 along that North Carolina-Virginia border. Cold front down to our south and east, that has been parked there for the last couple of days. That's what brought us that little bit, very little bit, almost laughable amount of rain that we got on Tuesday. Now high pressure is mainly in control of our weather, with our winds out of the north and out of the northeast, bringing in the cooler and slightly drier air, more comfortable air that we have. But what I'm eyeing is this area of low pressure down to the south. That's going to continue to work its way toward us as we go into the weekend. And right now it looks like Saturday could be shaping up to be our wettest day of the next 7. Of course, that's something we'll keep you updated on. For the here and now, it's an absolutely perfect day of weather to get outside. All sunshine, low humidity, no showers, no storms to worry about today, with highs in the low and mid 80s this afternoon. Of course, tonight we'll drop it back down under partly cloudy skies into the low 60s across the Triad, maybe even some upper 50s if you go back to the west in some of those higher elevations and some of the mountain communities as well. 7-day forecast looks like this. We start to crank the heat back up as we go into your Friday. Afternoon highs in the upper 80s with only that low 20% chance of a pop-up shower or thunderstorm. On Saturday, kind of highlight that in your mind and on the calendar as the day to watch. Scattered rain is likely in the morning, at least throughout the afternoon, and that will hold our temperatures back. And honestly, 83 degrees right now, I may be a little far-fetched on that. We may even struggle to get out of the 70s. So, of course, we'll keep reevaluating that. Sunday, easily the best of the weekend days. Mainly dry, but we do start to add in that heat and humidity yet again. Upper 80s for Sunday, and we are back to 90 degrees by early next week.
All right, so while they are talking about weather, let's focus in on the hurricane season. It's already here, as we know. We've already seen some named storms blow by here and, of course, impact the Gulf Coast. New information, though, from NOAA shows an active season of big named storms ahead.
Yeah, the agency updated its outlook yesterday. So let's start with meteorologist Christian Morgan. Christian, are we looking at a repeat of last year's really active season?
You know, that's a really good question, guys. And while we are expecting a busy season, we're not expecting it to be as busy as it was last year. Now, of course, the NOAA updated their original forecast that called for 13 to 20 named storms this year. They upped that to 15 to 21 named storms is what they're predicting as we go into especially the latter half of hurricane season. Of course, we expect June and July to normally be a little quiet like it was. But then as we get into August and into September, things really do start to ramp back up. So we're not expecting it to be as busy as it was last year, but I think we're still on pace for a pretty active season in the tropics. And this is kind of the going trend. We've had the question a lot lately whether or not we're going to have a season like last year. And that 2020 season was record-breaking and something, of course, that doesn't happen often. I think that was more of like a one-off situation. But as we go forward, all the data would suggest that we'll likely have at least busier hurricane seasons going forward.
You're changing it up on us again. every time I look, you're outside, you're inside. Next time he'll be right here.
I know, right?
It's like, where's Waldo? All right, so the question I guess this morning we have to start with is the severity. I mean, is there any indication that just because a storm is named that it would be more damaging, or how does that correlate?
Yeah, not necessarily. So when we talk about these named storms, 15 to 21 of those, in order for it to be named, it has to become tropical storm strength. So of course these start out as little disturbances and then they become tropical depressions. But once they reach tropical storm strength of at least 40-mile-per-hour winds, then that's when they start to take on that name. So, it could very well happen. We could have, 10 tropical storms that never really get barely above that threshold, but they will grab a name. Of course, 3 to 5 of those 7 to 10 hurricanes, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Association, or NOAA, does say could possibly become a major hurricane, and that will be a category 3, 4, or 5. And those are the most dangerous, the most damaging, and that's why they kind of classifies those a little bit different. So just because it has a name doesn't mean one way or the other. And also I would say that even in North Carolina, even though we're expecting all of those, or they're expecting 15 to 21 named storms, that doesn't mean that any or all of them will come to North Carolina. It's something we have to watch.
Mm-hmm.
So Ed, was it typical for NOAA to issue this type of update, or was this an unusual situation yesterday that you saw these modifications to the forecast? Well,
they normally update about this time. They do it, of course, before the hurricane season starts, and then this is just kind of an update as we move deeper and deeper into the hurricane season. And as Christian just mentioned, I think the real thing, and this is impossible to forecast, we have a good feeling based on sea surface temperatures and the lack of upper level winds or wind shear that would kind of prevent storms from developing. We have a good handle that conditions are going to be pretty ripe for development. We have no clue where they're going to develop and where they're going to track. And that has a lot to do with where the Bermuda high pressure system is located. They usually begin, if they begin out in the Atlantic Ocean, they track onto the west, and then they start to curve to the northwest and north. And some of them, of course, curve right over the southeastern part of the United States. But it is almost impossible to forecast exactly where the storms are going to develop or where they're going to go. And as Christian mentioned, not necessarily that we would have much activity here, but then again, on the flip side of that, with the activity that we expect, we got to keep an eye out for sure in the southeast U.S.
They don't always form in the same manner, right? Or start at the same path and track the same way. Do they, or do they?
Well, usually a lot of these, especially the ones, they call them the Cape Verde storms because of the Cape Verde Islands off of the west coast of Africa. These are little disturbances that move off of the African coast, and then they develop as they track onto to the west through the trade winds. But also sometimes when a cold front moves through our area and it moves offshore, maybe off of the east coast or down into the Gulf of Mexico, and it kind of hangs out for a few days, quite often we can see a little development along that what we call an old front. So those are two primary conditions that we have to look at. A stalled or old front can develop a storm as well.
So official hurricane season is what, June 1st to December 1st-ish, right?
Yeah, and to the last day of November. So, really for all practical purposes, we're just getting started really in the hurricane season. If you look at the climatology of tropical development, circle the 10th of September. That is the climatological peak. So we've got, the rest of this month, and, it could potentially, if all this plays out, it could get really, really busy as we move into September. And many of our seniors remember Hurricane Hazel, a very destructive storm way back in 1954. Love to have my grandparents talk to me about that storm. That was a major storm for much of the East Coast, including North Carolina. That developed on the 15th of October. So October can be a rather busy month as well.
We've also had pretty busy pre-seasons up to this point. Over the last 5 or 6 years, there's at least been some kind of activity in the tropics, or at least a named storm, before the official start of hurricane season. So the season, as we call it, is a little bit arbitrary, but that usually tends to be the best time, or when conditions are the most ripe for tropical formation.
I had no idea that I've always heard, June to November. But if you think about it, it's like half the year that we're in hurricane season, as well as, all the other things we have to worry about during those times.
There's a lot of discussion about that too in the weather community, whether or not we shift hurricane season or we, lengthen it up or change the date. So there's a whole discussion about that.
Well, I asked a question on the feed here, do you tend to avoid beach trips later in the summer, early in fall when hurricane season really ramps up? A couple of viewers said they just take their chances. We normally plan a small beach trip in October because there are fewer people there, but we know that there's always a chance there could be a hurricane, and of course we need to look at the cancellation or at least rescheduling policy. But then we heard from another viewer, Heather, who said she has a trip, I believe it was Heather, she has a trip planned for late November and is hoping that will be okay. And it seems like by traditional standards of hurricane season, that should be the tail end of things, right?
Yeah, something weird would happen. It's going to be, or at least I'm hoping, never say never. We've had development on into December, and I'm not sure, but I think just about every month of the year, there has been some development in the Atlantic Basin. That's hard to believe. Like there's been development in April, there's been development in December. I'm not so sure about January and February, and I'm looking way back in history in terms of tropical development. Now, to answer the question about should I postpone a beach trip, Ed would never, ever postpone a beach trip. Here's what you got to do. You've downloaded the WFMY News 2 weather app. And your storm team, we're going to keep you updated with graphics, weather stories. I mean, we track these things long before they get close to the East Coast. So I would go ahead and go, but you got to stay tuned to the media, preferably us on your smartphone, and we'll just keep you posted. And listen to government officials, the local officials. If they start talking about evacuation, it's time to gas up the car and head back to the Triad.
Yeah, I think that's why, there's a lot of beachgoers around Labor Day, not only because it's a 3-day weekend, but because after that, you're really starting to take a big risk in terms of planning those trips. So that could be one reason Labor Day is just always very packed at the beaches, and my voice is always going out.
We did see one question about how storms are named. One viewer commented that she feels like the storms, at least she remembers, are always ladies' names, but technically they alternate, right? Every letter, like if the A is a woman's name, the B is a man's name. Is that still how it works?
Yeah, it used to be, Ed, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but it used to be all female names when this originally started to become a thing where they would name the storms. And now, of course, it incorporates male and female, and it not only incorporates just, English names or names from North America, it includes names that anywhere in the tropics, that the Atlantic Basin, any country that storms could impact.
Yeah, it's very interesting. They ran out of female names, and you think, well, okay, were meteorologists picking on females? Well, blame it on the maritime people out on ships, cargo ships and things like that. They would name these storms after their girlfriend or, their fiance and this is before we had the standard that we have now. So they kind of started, and then the World Meteorological Organization came up with the female names, and then we retire the names when we have a really dangerous, destructive, and deadly storm. So they started running out of female names, and of course there was we believe in equal rights. So they started, I'm not sure what year they did it, but they started alternating male and female, and that just gave us a whole new batch of names. So that was a good thing.
The other question that we get a lot of times is, haven't we seen this name before, or haven't I heard this name before? And you have. Unless the name is retired, the list actually rotates every 6 years. So 6 years ago, we had the same list of names that we're using this year.
Like you will never hear another Katrina or another Hazel. Obviously, if they're destructive or deadly, they're typically retired.
Right.
Yeah. All right, that was a great conversation. Thank you for dropping all of your questions here. Always fun to chat with our experts in the weather department. Let's get to our headlines, and then we have another talker coming up. So we'll start with this. The Forsyth County Health Department ran out of $100 prepaid gift cards for people getting their first doses of vaccines. The department rolled out this incentive yesterday, and by 4:30 in the afternoon, nearly 300 people had received at least one dose of the vaccine, and the cards were gone. The Forsyth County Health Department is getting more $100 gift cards this week. The Guilford County Health Department will start giving them out Saturday. We have a full list of the participating incentives clinics on our website. Well, the CDC says the Delta variant now accounts for 93% of new COVID cases in the U.S. We are seeing a rise in those cases in the Triad, but also increased vaccinations. WFMY News' Denise McMillan has more on the numbers and how local pharmacies are responding.
Well, Friendly Center's Gate City Pharmacy says they have more than doubled the number of vaccines they've given out in the past 2 weeks. Pharmacy technicians say the new wave of folks stopping in is due to jobs requiring the vaccine, travel, and concerns surrounding the Delta variant. Gate City Pharmacy went from giving out no first doses of the Moderna vaccine to using 2 vials in 2 weeks. That's about 20 first dose shots. The pharmacy administers shots on Thursdays, and they get about 100 doses from the state a week.
The state is looking more towards getting shots in people. Before, they were like, do not get it if you're going to waste a dose, because we cannot waste it. And now they're more, give it to people. If you have to waste it, you have to waste it.
Starmount Pharmacy in Greensboro and Triad Choice in Winston-Salem have seen vaccines fluctuate. The manager at both locations says they've seen a slight increase, but nowhere near the numbers they saw earlier in the year. So they're getting creative to reach the community.
We started to do things like clinics, and we can go to their homes if they're bedridden or if they cannot make it out. So either or, we try to provide those services to them to make sure everybody gets the vaccination.
And most of the local pharmacies I spoke to say that they likely won't see the numbers they saw last year simply because the vaccine is more accessible than it was.
All right, a business in downtown Greensboro is requiring proof of COVID vaccination. Scuppernong Books posted its new policy on its Facebook page. Masks are required indoors for everyone, and proof of vaccination is required for indoor dining only, and it starts Saturday. A reminder for Panthers fans, Fan Fest is tomorrow night at Bank of America Stadium in Charlotte. If you can't make it to the stadium, hey, watch our coverage right here on WFMY starting at 7 p.m. It does mean some programming changes. Secret Celebrity Restoration airs early Saturday morning at 1:37, followed by Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy! And don't miss Fan Fest Friday night at 7 right here on WFMY, your official home of the Carolina Panthers.
Our next talker, pretty exciting. A Winston-Salem 18-year-old is now a millionaire. Audrey is the state's third vaccine lottery winner. She said she got vaccinated to protect herself and others. She said she's still really in disbelief. She is $1 million wealthier now.
I honestly didn't think that it was like a real thing. I kind of thought it was spam mail when I first saw it in my email. And it's still, honestly, I'm standing at this podium and it's still not clicking for me for some reason.
Well, it is real, Audrey. She plans to save most of the money, put some towards school, invest another chunk, and of course give herself a shopping spree. She encouraged others to get vaccinated to protect themselves.
Well, some of you reacting, Ann Idle said, congratulations. And we heard from Savannah, who said, thanks for doing your part by getting vaccinated. Good luck at college. Patty wanted to know who won the scholarship. Well, we will answer that for you right now. The state is trying to get in touch with the third $125,000 scholarship winner. The winner has a 30-day window to respond, and we've been told that if that doesn't happen, then the state will draw another name.
Yeah, 30-day window from the time of the drawing, I believe, which was 2 weeks ago. So, yeah, gotta check the emails. We've heard from all the winners so far, who almost all, I believe, have said they thought this was a joke or a spam at first until they actually got in touch with the health department and saw Health Secretary Dr. Mandy Cohen telling them that they were millionaires or the scholarship winners. So, yeah, I mean, it's good to have your guards up because people are always looking to take advantage. But in this case, it was the real situation. And wow, what a cool thing to have 3 winners from the Triad. Ed Matthews, I'm not one of them. At least not yet.
Yeah, you know, that makes me think maybe I should start actually playing the regular lottery. I don't do it, but my goodness, people here in the immediate Triad, there's some luck going around. I think it's pretty incredible. But you know, you're talking about people finding it hard to believe, and I was just thinking, how would I react if some stranger, some voice called me, I didn't recognize that voice, and said, "Hi, Ed Matthews, you've just won $1 million." And it's like, I'd probably say, "Who are you?"
Or hang up.
Yeah, that would be, and if it was for real, it's like, uh-oh. But yeah, I would say, please explain yourself and prove to me that I'm now a millionaire. That's a pretty big pill to swallow. A good pill, though, if it's true.
I think it's so fascinating that she's deciding to use her new wealth to pay for college and do responsible things like investing and saving. You know, I would obviously probably just spend it all if I were 18 and not responsible, but she has a plan in place, and I love that. Christian, can you imagine being a millionaire at 18?
No, I cannot. Somebody has taught her the value of $1 too, easily. You know, kind of the same thing Ed was saying. If somebody called me, I don't even answer the number. I don't even answer if I don't know the number calling. So they would call me 3 or 4 times, and maybe one of those I would pick up. I can't imagine.
Yeah. I know. So it's pretty cool. Interestingly, also, all of the winners so far, the first 2 lottery winners, the second 2 lottery winners, and at least one of these third round of lottery winners are all women. And statistically, that makes sense because we're seeing in the vaccine demographics that 11% more women than men have had the COVID-19 vaccine, even though there's only a 2% difference in the population size. So statistically, women have more of a chance to get vaccinated or more of a chance to win the vaccine lottery than men, although we do know that some of that is skewed because people who got the vaccine after the state unrolled this incentive got 2 chances. Their names were entered twice, as opposed to those of us who got vaccinated prior, our names got entered once. So could be a little bit off, but it's interesting that all of them have been women.
Yeah.
I also think that the state's largest vaccination site was at the Greensboro Mall at Four Seasons. And I think, you know, because there were so many people that went to that vaccination site and that were from the Triad, it was in close proximity, maybe that has something to do with it, because there was such a large pool of people from this area who went to one location in the Triad. I think that kind of increases your chances to have a Triad winner as well. But we know that there are vaccination places across the state. This one just happened to be the largest in the state. There was one in Charlotte at Mecklenburg County in the Bank of America Stadium, and they, you know, served like 25,000 people. But I think the Mass Vax clinic here at the mall had like over like 60,000 over the
it was a lot.
8 weeks, you know, so a little bit of a larger pool there. But again, this is just me talking. There's no data supporting this. I'm just kind of thinking out loud.
Yeah, Nadine said her son is getting his second dose at 9 o'clock today. That means he was probably in the drawing for the 4th round of the vaccine lottery if he got his first dose 3 weeks ago. So Nadine, have your son check his emails. The 4th drawing was yesterday, so maybe there will be good news for your family.
Yeah, and if there is, let us know about it first.
Yeah.
Even before the announcement. That way we can, you know, start talking with him, and we can be like, we know this kid. You know, it'd be great.
Yeah. I think the $125,000 scholarship is really cool too.
Yeah.
For folks who are 18, I think that's really neat.
And it also, you know, gives an opportunity for parents to do it with their children, so they can be a part of the explanation process. And, you know, this is what's happening, and these are the reasons why, and, you know, how do you feel about it? You know, kind of getting that response and just making it another experience that you can share with your children, or at least talk about and get their feelings on.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Nadine said she'll let us know, by the way.
Oh, great.
If she gets that phone call. Dwayne said he's waiting on his email or phone call. And then Christy said she and her daughter decided to get theirs. They just had their first doses.
Nice. All right. Well, listen, if any of you guys, you know, get that call, we do want to know about it first before the other guys. And we're not going to even say their name, but those other stations. We just like to have the information. Thank you.
Yeah, and I got a question, and I should know the answer to this because with my little earpiece, I hear you ladies every morning giving the news. while Christian and I are putting the weather together. But how many more drawings? Am I still in the running?
Well,
or is this over with?
It's over. The fourth
Oh.
drawing was, and last drawing was yesterday.
Well,
Darn.
Right, it was yesterday.
But if they don't respond, they will select another name. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So there's a
There's
little
still
bit of
hope.
hope.
Cross your fingers.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
Yeah. And by the way, there is an expectation that the scholarship winner does use the money toward college, but after a certain age, if they decide not to pursue a college education, they do still get that $125,000. So it works both ways, but the intent is to help you out a little bit, and in turn, by getting the vaccine, you're helping yourself and everybody else protect against COVID. So. Yeah.
All right, great discussion. We'll let you know when we know about the next person, or if you know before we do because it's you, let us know.
They got it.
Okay, I just like to put it out there. All right, Ed, close us out with a look at our forecast.
Oh, and it's a good looking forecast. It's gorgeous here in the garden. We've got sunshine. We had a few scattered clouds early, but I don't see a cloud at all in the sky right now. Gorgeous day, a little cooler, drier air, mid 80s. Turning up the heat a little bit tomorrow, upper 80s, but still fairly dry and comfortable. We're watching Saturday. System comes in from the south. It may be loaded with moisture, and it looks as though a lot of clouds and pretty good shot of seeing some rain and even a few afternoon thunderstorms. We're looking at low 80s, but that system moves on to the northeast and moves out. And what we have for Sunday and especially next week is high pressure building over the region at the surface and in the upper levels of the atmosphere. And you know what that means? It's going to be generally dry, small storm chance each afternoon, and ooh, it's going to get hot and humid again. 90 on Monday, and we could see some low 90s by Tuesday and Wednesday.
All right, thanks so much for the updated look at the forecast. Saturday, we'll keep an eye out on, but we still have to get through today and Friday.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for joining us on After GMS. We'll see you right back here as we celebrate Friday right here on Facebook. Take care, everybody.